We're going to talk a little bit about theme right now, and just to kind of get a general understanding of how to analyze theme and understand what it is, and also how to identify it in a story, because oftentimes, in fact, 99% of the time when you read a story, you don't directly know what the theme is. The author doesn't say, and therefore, this is the theme of the story, wrapped in a bow and handed to you. You often have to make inferences and analyze what the theme is. So let's talk about, and this is all from Kelly Mays, reading about theme. But let's go ahead and talk about this a little bit more. All right. So, understanding theme, and that's also known as the hidden meaning in stories. So, you ask yourself this question when you're trying to understand theme, and that question is, what does it all mean? What's the point of the story? Analyzing theme is asking yourself, what does the text mean? So it's hidden because, like I said right now, the author doesn't start or end a story by telling you, therefore, this is the meaning of the story. Theme doesn't have to be the most important aspect of the story. There's kind of a misconception that it all leads to the theme and that's it. But understanding it helps us realize maybe the purpose behind the story's action. It could certainly be the most important aspect of a story, but it doesn't have to be. I think students are pressured trying to figure out what theme is, and it's important to identify it, but that doesn't have to be your central focus when you're analyzing anything or writing about something. Of course, you'll be asked about it from time to time, but theme is often hidden. So literary elements are what we're talking about consistently right now, and those are characters, plot, narration, tone, setting, and understanding those literary elements might help us learn what the theme is, because sometimes the way characters act and are described hint to what the purpose and theme of the story is, or just the setting, where it takes place, leads to the character's actions and thus could be the theme as well. So when we analyze theme, it's a challenge because, like I said, right, they don't end the story saying the theme of this story is to respect others and treat people how you'd like to be treated, right? Very, very rarely. Most likely, 99% of the time, stories do not end that way or start that way or mentioned anywhere. So as a reader, we have to almost treat any type of story like a mystery to solve the theme. The really cool, I think, and unique part of analyzing literature, everyone might have an entirely different answer for what the story's theme is because it's their own reaction to it based on the information they've gathered. So there's really not a right or wrong with theme so long as you always consider, again, these literary elements. So if you come up with the theme of the story to be to respect others and treat people how you'd like to be treated, this really isn't even a theme, by the way, that I made this up last minute, and this is a little bit more of a moral. Actually, it's more of a lesson, but it's okay. It serves the purpose of this slide. We'll go into more examples right now, but regardless, whatever you find to prove the theme, you want to prove it. So if you have one answer and your classmate has another answer, you need to find evidence from the story, and that evidence is usually in the form of plot, action, character setting, narration, or tone. That's the evidence you use to prove, hey, this is why I found the theme, that people like to be treated well. Maybe that's a better theme than this. People like to be respected. People desire respect. I'll say that's the theme instead. So you find evidence that proves that theme. So that's what's kind of nice about analyzing literature is no one's right or wrong so long as you provide evidence. If you don't provide evidence, then that's when there's a problem with the analysis. So can there be more than one theme? There's two debates. Kelly Mays mentions this in the reading, that there's two sides to this argument where one side says, nope, there's only one central theme. And that when they mean that, it means the official theme of a story, the theme of a story. Another side says, no, you're wrong. there can be several themes in a story. So they word it more like a theme of the story. So it's not the theme, it's a theme. So there's several. Who cares? There's no right or wrong to this debate either, by the way. It's how you want to interpret it. But she gathers that one work of fiction most likely represents multiple ideas, and maybe one of those ideas is the main theme. It doesn't mean that it's the only theme out there, that there are several themes to a story, but we can all agree that there's usually one central main theme that is the main focus of the purpose of the story. So just think about that. And then speaking of idea versus topic versus subject, she talks about this to kind of clarify. And there's also a misconception from students, understandably, where if you're learning about this for the first time, especially, where if you're asked, hey, what's the theme of the story? And students tell the plot, they tell the action of the story instead. The story starts and ends this way, and that's it. That's not theme, that's action. So just keep that in mind. Theme is never bluntly stated. You have to figure it out. So steps to take when finding the theme. You want to start with a one-word idea. So that's what an idea is. So if I say love, that can't be the theme because it's too vague. Well, what about love? So then you move on to a group of idea phrases. You make a phrase. So a phrase is not a complete sentence. The love of a friend. Okay, we're getting there. We're talking about friendship maybe a little bit more. So then we need to form one sentence. A theme is a complete sentence, so make sure it's always at least one sentence. Form one sentence out of the phrase. The theme of the story is that the love of a friend will triumph any battle. Friendship solves all problems, something like that. And it started with just the word love, then we got the phrase love of a friend, and then we made a sentence out of it. So that's a good guide that she has for you in the reading. Don't be too specific with themes. She makes a really good point with that is, don't be too specific, but make sure it is a complete sentence. So this hints at character actions, right? Because we can kind of indicate that friendship survives over anything else. So we can maybe gather that character actions maybe solved a problem in the story, but we don't know what this story is. We don't say, the character wore red and then saved their best friend who was trying to survive, things like that. It's too specific because then it starts to sound like plot action a little bit more, and we don't want that. So just some advice there with that. Okay, so earlier, the example I had earlier is a little bit more of a moral, so let me clarify that a little bit. I was in the moral mindset because of one of the stories from the week. So theme versus moral. Moral is a lesson. It's a lesson about life. So stories with morals explain how people... Look at this typo. I'm so sorry, you all. Sometimes I overlook things a lot of the time. Okay. So stories with morals explain how people should behave. That word should is kind of a hint at that. It's almost like a lesson about something in life. How people should behave is a moral. You're kind of talking more at the audience with morals. Themes do not have to do this. They certainly can, but they don't always have to be some type of lesson involved. Themes often discuss how humans already behave, not how they should behave. So it's not so, waving the finger at you at the audience, hey, you need to act this way, or you're not being a moral and genuine person. That could be the theme, a lesson, but themes aren't always lessons. And as Mays states, when analyzing theme, don't ask what the story teaches us. Don't ask what does the story teach us. That's finding the moral. That's thinking too much about a moral or a lesson, and sometimes you overlook really important other purposes in the story. Instead, ask, what does this story reveal? Perhaps, what does it reveal about human behavior? I was obviously in a tangent when I wrote this, so let me fix this little typo. Don't ask, what does the story teach us? So don't ask that because that's more about trying to find a moral. Instead, ask, what does the story reveal? So think about that as well. All right, so let's add a question there, right? And then she also mentions that, if there is a lesson, if you're reading something and you're really noticing some type of lesson being stated, and that's constantly going back to it, the character's actions, the the perceptions of others, the setting, if there's something about it that's just reoccurring, then it's just more of a story that's grounded in morals. Morals, you're going to find morals as the themes in fairy tale fiction. Fairy tale fiction is really known for having the moral as well. So morals are often grounded in fairy tale fiction, maybe fantasy as well a little bit. There's Aesop fables, and I believe there was a sample of an Aesop fable in this reading for theme versus moral. And those are all just grounded in lesson. That's their purpose, is to teach the audience something. So thinking about examples, people shouldn't lie to be successful. That's an example of a moral, because I'm saying, hey, this is how you should not behave. People shouldn't lie to be successful. That's me waving my finger to you saying, don't do it. So if you take that same idea, maybe, but we don't ground the audience in a lesson, an example of a theme could be something like, people overlook hard work and lie to get ahead. We're not saying everybody does that, but we can analyze human behavior, and we know that human nature is flawed. So this discusses human behavior flaws more, and it doesn't celebrate it, but it's just pointing it out there that it was reoccurring in the story. So that's the main difference between moral and theme as well. And again, it could be a moral, especially if it's fairy tale fiction. Moral is still a type of theme. It's just a lesson more. But don't focus on moral, because you may overlook something. However, if you do notice you're getting a fairy tale fiction story, that would be the place to look for moral. So what do y'all think? Let me know if you have any questions. Theme takes practice, so don't be afraid to say something wrong. Always dive into evidence to prove what you're gathering.